Hello, this is the Silver Watchman, and welcome back to the Hopeless series. Now, this is episode number 11. Previously on the Hopeless series, we talked about friendship. I do apologize that I was a bit scatterbrained during that video. It's been kind of a difficult time lately, and I've just been kind of all over the place. It's been very, very difficult to get these recordings done, thanks to very difficult living situations. But you know what? Glory be to God, nonetheless. Because this is a great honor and a blessing. A blessing that I get to do this. But yeah, we talked about friendship. And in this episode, we're going to talk about marriage. Or more accurately to say, no, pretty much just marriage for now. So, marriage is not a new concept that I've talked about, or that even God has talked about. But it is something that is repeatedly needs to be addressed because reasons. And those reasons are, let's see, arranged marriages, forced marriages, situational marriages, bestial marriages, and the other really weird kinds. They're out there. I don't have the whole list, and I kind of don't want the whole list, but a goat? Alright, that's news. That's a goat. Why the goat? I apologize, I'm just a tad bit a bit frustrated because I am giving this my honest best, and this is like the third time I've tried to record this particular video. I don't know. But look, there's only one type of marriage that God will recognize. And that is two consenting adults, one male and one female, at least one female, that God will recognize. That you go before God and just basically say this is, I love this person. I want to spend the rest of my days on earth with this person. Will you bless us and join us together? And depending on where your heart's at, God will say yes or God will say no. And the reason you go to God for this is because of this one simple fact. God knows you better than you do. Because when you were being born, when that sperm of your father touched the egg of your mother and united to become you, the second that happened, not only was it the beginnings of your body, but it was the beginnings of your soul. Because here's how humans are, pretty much made now. When a person is born, through intercourse, through a man placing his I want to say liver disturber again, so I'm going to say liver disturber again because it's honestly it's old slang. Just look it up. Wants to places his liver disturber inside of the woman's happy clam, also known as the getting red-faced. Okay, we're just gonna call it a happy clam for now. And they begin the act of intercourse under the shroud of they're married. And even that's how you should be. You should be married before you have sex, because when you have sex, doing the intercourse of the doing the sex. If you're not married, then it's a sin. And even when you lust after somebody and you're not married, it's a sin. If you look at your wife, if you, the husband, look at your wife, like you want to do the like you want to do that sideways shuffle, then that's okay. It's not a sin to have sex. Because you're looking at your wife the way you're supposed to look at your wife. Because let's face it, you chose to marry her because you find her to be an interesting and beautiful being. Just as Adam found Eve to be interesting and beautiful. And to be honest, God, at least in my opinion, put a little more thought into making women than he did when he made men. Because when he made men, he just he just looked at himself and like, okay, I'm just gonna make a smaller version of this. I'm just gonna get some dust here, put it together and form it into like my shape, and I'm just gonna breathe life into it. And he just went and just breathed life, and then yep, there's Adam. And I'm really, really simplifying it. If you want to hear like it in a little more detail, just watch the Bible series. And I know you hear a lot of shuffling. I'm in a very small area, and I'm kind of claustrophobic, so I'm just a little uncomfortable. But that's okay. And when he made Eve, he took a piece of Adam out, and then he made Eve. And, you know, he made her with the woman parts, you know. You got the you got her womanliness, okay? I little too bashful to say, to give it in full detail yet. You know, just a tad, okay. So back to marriage. So when you're joined in holy matrimony under God, and yes, believe it or not, you don't have to be married to just one person. You could be married to multiple people at the same time. But as we see in the Bible, there are issues with that. If you have multiple wives, they're all gonna want your attention equally. So, I mean, you can, but preferably you should just stick with, you know, what Adam basically did and just have one wife. He just had Eve, as far as we know. Adam just had Eve. Oh, Abraham, he had multiple wives. He had I forget. Oh my gosh, I'm horrible with names. He had his wife, and then he had the handmaiden that eventually, and then you have Israel, who had multiple wives, and you had David, King David, that also had multiple wives. So that's, as far as we're seeing, it's not against God. Neither is sex. Sex is not a sin, but sex before marriage is a sin because you leave a piece of yourself behind, both physically. You know, the man will leave behind he'll leave behind a sperm inside of the woman's uterus after blasting it through the cervix after they did the sideways shuffle. So yeah. Overall, sex is not a bad thing. God designed us to have sex. He said, go and multiply. So that means sex is okay. He wouldn't design us to do it if it was a bad thing. Like, he didn't design us to basically one-shot kill things. Kind of like a chameleon does. Like, just straight up whatever bug's in front of it, just like shoomp, and it's just a one-shot kill. Or like, you know, a spider, basically also a one-shot kill for whatever poor thing is next to it. Unless you're human, then you have a pretty reasonable chance of surviving. Unless it's a black widow, in which case you've got a very high chance of death. Unless, you know, you were kind of designed not to react to poison, because yeah. But yes, while God will recognize multiple people getting married, you do have to come before God if you want to be married. Because one, it's an act of respect, and two, God knows whether or not you should be with that person. So when you don't consult God, you have a very, very high chance of divorce. And with divorce, there's only one kind of divorce that God will recognize. If there's infidelity, meaning if there was cheating going on, then God's going to recognize it. God's going to recognize that. And then you guys separate, but then after you separate, you cannot get back together. That's it for you two. There is no getting back together after you divorce. And I forget where it is. We'll get to that when we get to that. We'll learn in a little more detail what actually goes on. But arranged marriages God does not recognize them. Unless it is something that God himself ordained. This is a lot more complicated than I was expecting. Because, I mean, yes, we do see in the Bible that there are some arranged marriages. Like, let's say, for example, the husband dies. So, naturally, to preserve his bloodline, his brother marries the woman, the wife of the deceased husband, to continue his bloodline. And whatever kids they have belong to the husband. Yeah. And that is that's kind of how that goes. And that wouldn't be counted as infidelity. But that's getting really, really, really complex, like, into it. This is just kind of a very, very brief and short explanation. Kind of like a short, like, terms and conditions of marriage and stuff. And yes, when you're married, sex is allowed. It's not like that's not an evil thing. God did not design that as an evil thing. It's just that sex before marriage or outside of marriage is that's bad, because you're getting attached to somebody that you're not supposed to. And that's not good. You know, everybody gets hurt in that situation, and the reason that God set that up as a rule of don't do that is really, it's not for his sake at all, but it's for your own sake. Because he knows what he designed humans like. When we do that, we bond very, very deeply. Even if you say that you don't, and you put on airs and you have a front. The point of the matter is you still bond. And that's the truth of the matter. He designed you that when you have sex, you bond. You bond deeply. Whether you want to or not, whether you recognize it or not, that's what happens. But when it's within marriage, that's when it's okay to bond, because a husband and wife should be bonding, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically, because that's normal and that's what God made marriage for. So you could have a safe way of bonding. And yeah, I'm sorry about all the ads. I honestly I am sorry about the ads. But you know what? Glory be to God and blessings be upon you. Thank you for sitting through the whole video. This was a very brief, like kind of like short terms and conditions of, for marriage. And thank you. Seriously, this is honestly, it's an honor and a blessing that I get to do this. And thank you for watching. This is the Silver Watchman signing out.